here to the launch pad. You are joining us for our live launch coverage of OneWeb, the seventh launch for OneWeb and the fifth operational launch. We're just waiting for OneWeb and Arianespace to go live here. It looks like Arianespace has delayed their stream just a little bit, but we're still waiting for OneWeb to come up. As I said, this is the fifth operational launch of the OneWeb internet constellation, and I'm sure they're going to dive deep into it. But let us know where you are watching from. Send in those questions if you have any, and we'll be answering those live on air. Now, we're not too sure if they're going to be going all the way through deployment or not. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So we'll have to wait and see. It's always a surprise with these OneWeb broadcasts. But today they're launching from Site 1S at the Vostochny Cosmodrome in Russia. They'll be launching on a Soyuz 2.1B rocket, and the customer is OneWeb. They're going into a polar orbit today. The initial orbit's going to be at 450 kilometers, so quite a bit higher than what we saw the Starlinks launch to yesterday, with a final orbit actually all the way out at 1,200 kilometers. So a very different constellation layout compared to the Starlink system. Each satellite in OneWeb actually covers a lot larger area because of how far out it is. Obviously, the Soyuz is not a reusable rocket, so we're not expecting to see any new any fairings brought back or boosters or anything like that. This is going to be the 60-second launch of the Soyuz 2.1B, and is already the 48th orbital launch of 2021. It seems like we just keep ranking that number up as fast as we can go. If we think back, just a few years ago, maybe that's what we had in a year if we were lucky. So it's definitely picking up here, but see people in the chat. We got Joe from Tennessee. Good to see you. Israel's here. Marcus is in New Jersey. But yeah, let us know where you're watching from. Send in those questions if you want to use the hashtag AskTLP, or you can even use a super chat or super sticker as well. Those are options now, and all those go to help supporting the channel and making sure that we're able to continue our live coverage. I'm just checking to see here because Arianespace did delay their stream. OneWeb has not updated a time on there, so we're just seeing if there's been maybe a slight delay or not in the launch. If it's not an instantaneous launch window, that's totally something that they can do. We've got Hamlet, I believe that's Indiana. We've got Florida. I'm up in Canada, so all over North America here today. And I know we'll have some friends from over across the pond as well, I'm sure, in the not too far here. But send in questions if you have questions about OneWeb, Arianespace, Soyuz, anything like that. 48. How many were recoverable? Ooh. Let us go look at our, I'm not sure, do we have our database for everything this year yet, Marcus? Let's take a look. Let's see what all has happened in 2021. Most of them, I would say, would have been, let's see here. Let me do some quick math. Love Soyuz launches, Ontario here. Hey, Neil, good to see you. Welcome. Mr. X from Guadalajara, Mexico. Ooh, it'd be hot down there. Just a little too warm for me right now. Mind you, we had snow like a week ago, so who knows what the right temperature technically would be. We were just lucky enough that we weren't further south where they got a foot of snow in the middle of May. No, apparently nobody was happy. We're just checking on number of launches that we've seen this year so far that are reusable, and waiting to see when OneWeb decides to go live. Doing some quick numbers here. Where's the year start? And there's the start of the year. Now, would we count Virgin Orbit as reusable? Like the rocket isn't, but the launcher technically is. We were at least 22 of the 48 were reusable. There were the 3 or 4 Starships in there other than SN15. Obviously would have been reusable maybe, but weren't. And then there's the Virgin. So I'd say half. I think you could very safely say half of them. Actually, yeah, 23 were reusable. So definitely an option. 20-minute delay. Okay, good to know. I've been waiting to see something on that. I've got the Russian feed up and they just turned it off. They've been live for like 45 minutes and I guess they're just like, yeah, we'll take a break. We'll be back. So nearly about half was Elon. Either Elon or Bezos. So there was a couple New Shepard flights in there as well. I think 3. And then there was, yeah. So almost half were Elon with it. So quite a few. I mean, we've seen 5 Starlink launches now in just the last 30 days. So it's definitely picking up, and they're building that fleet of boosters. So it is a lot faster for them to be able to have a turnaround for those. And they've got quite a few lined up. Now the schedule has been pretty quiet for this month. There's a lot of China launches this month. The next big SpaceX launch that we are expecting to see is going to be on June 3rd, and that's going to be the Dragon CRS mission. So that will be a good one to watch. And that's actually almost going to be at this time. It's about 20 minutes from now in 7 days. So make sure you mark your calendars. We'll schedule that one in once we see the weather briefing and have an idea on if weather's looking good for that actual TZ time that they are targeting. But yeah, it looks like we've got a 20-minute delay on OneWeb. So we're going to, answer questions, comments. We're just seeing what they can do here. Oh, now let's see what's going on here. Looks like they've scrubbed it. Let's take a look here. Let's double check this. I'm seeing some tweets saying they scrubbed it due to a technical reason. Next launch attempt is Friday, May 27th. That's today. Which is still today over there. I'm not seeing anything just yet on the website, and their streams are still scheduled. So let us take a look and see what they're saying. If I read Russian, might be helpful. Google Translate. Bear with me here, guys, as we just take a look and see what's going on. Yes. So today, Brandon, it is a it's a Soyuz 2.1B, and it was to be launching a series of OneWeb satellites, which is kind of a competitor to Starlink, is the idea of it. A much smaller constellation in whole, but at a much higher altitude. They operate at 1,200 kilometers, so well over double for it. If they had launch today, they would be boosted up to 218 satellites in orbit. They launch them in generally sets of about 36 on the Soyuz rocket, and they go into an altitude of 450-kilometer orbit to initialize, and then they will work themselves up and out. They're planning 648. They need 600 for global coverage, and then they're going to carry 48 satellites actually in positions in the orbit to be able to have backups should a satellite have an error. Then they can move one in, where Starlink kind of just fills in with itself. OneWeb, because of how far out they are, if one were to drop off, you are actually going to have a dropout in coverage there. So it says once they have all their satellites up, they're expecting download speeds roughly of 50 megabytes a second, which that doesn't seem that high to me to start. So we'll have to see what's going on with that. Okay, so a second tier Starlink with a way higher latency because, yes, right on it, Brandon. Hey, Gerard, good to see you. Why is Arianespace using a Roscosmos rocket? That's a good question. All the OneWebs have been launched on a Roscosmos. I'm not sure if our Discord has an answer for that. It just seems to be, I think it was the price on the cost of which rocket they wanted to use. Obviously, it's a smaller constellation and way less, like SpaceX has already got a wait list of hundreds of thousands of people that want to use Starlink. So that is obviously a big factor of them being able to rapidly produce these. Each Starlink satellite is $250,000. So when they're launching 60 at a time, and they've now launched 5 of these in 30 days, that's a good chunk of change that they're investing into these satellites. And there's no signs of them really slowing down because they've still got like easily 14,000 more to go. They need Starship to really be able to do it and meet the deadlines for the FAA and the FCC, but that's another story there. Do you think SpaceX would launch OneWeb if they asked and paid? Ooh, I mean, they're a business. I don't think they would. I think they would seriously look at it. I don't think they would. I think they would probably have to come to some sort of agreement to, like, if there was a delay, they're not going to delay their Starlink launch over a OneWeb launch, probably. But you'd have to, I mean, that's all into the business side of the negotiations and everything there. So I wouldn't assume. I would assume if OneWeb wanted to pay SpaceX to launch, they would. They're a rocket company first. Starlink is second, technically. But that's why we're also seeing now the protests of, hey, slow SpaceX and Starlink down. They're launching too many. We can't keep up. So that's not going to go anywhere, I don't think. But it's a valid point that people are, making the point of it's taking too long. Or like other people can't keep up. They're taking too long because they don't have their own rocket, which is a very valid point. Yeah, I'm seeing a couple things saying, yeah, it's been scrubbed. Okay, here's the Russian tweet. They just tweeted it. Technical issues have delayed today's OneWeb launch to no earlier than tomorrow. So they're doing a 24-hour delay. That's very rare to see with a Soyuz at this point in the count. Like normally, if there's going to be a delay, we see it well in advance of it, not within the T-minus an hour mark. They were down to about T-minus 45 minutes, actually. For it. So we'll keep answering a few more questions here, and then we might just wrap it up. At that point, it was a short but sweet coverage. But we will hopefully be back here tomorrow with that. But let's see, got a few more questions. SpaceX would launch Starliner. Is the money was right? Probably true. Yeah, absolutely. Someone is going to launch them, so they might as well take the money. It's true, and if it helps them fund Starship, wouldn't you take the money from a competitor to help fund your own future? More Starlinks, yeah. What is your opinion on Blue Origin's work philosophy? I don't get paid enough to go deep into their work philosophy. But I think any rocket company is good to have. I think competition's important. It helps push things forward and help pushes costs down. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with all the protests and stuff. I can definitely understand how they could be upset with not having won a contract. We've all had something where we didn't win it, or we didn't get the grade we wanted, or something like that. That happens. We can be upset about it, and sometimes challenging is worth it. I've challenged a few things, and it's worked out much more successfully. The latest thing, YouTube. But it happens. But I think you also have to be a good sport about it. That when it's clear why it was done and why someone else won or was selected or whatever, then it makes sense. So we'll take a look and see. I wish Blue Origin was a little faster. I think we all do. I think it'd be interesting to see a little bit more from them, but I think they're starting to pick it up. We also, again, if we're talking money, it comes down to money. SpaceX and Elon have a ton and a ton and a ton of money in SpaceX that Elon doesn't have to keep pouring in. Blue Origin itself keeps having to get money from investors or from other people. Yeah, they've launched some stuff, but really not a lot. They're testing stuff. So that's a big difference, is once you start making money, it's a lot easier to start cranking these out. That's why if you look at a lot of YouTubers, separate from our channel, where we're doing a lot to start, they start slower. And then as things start progressing and they can start officially paying for that time, they start picking up more. We're going quality and content, giving you what we think you guys want. We'll worry about the funding side later, which I think is kind of more of a SpaceX model of let's just get going and we'll get paid eventually and we'll work from it from there. So that light really just adjusted really dramatically. But now I don't look like I have black eyes, so that's helpful too. Hey, question. If you take a tourist space fly, will you earn astronaut wings? Yes. Some astronauts hate that answer. Others love it. Really, technically, once you cross the Kármán line, the question is, do you have to go to orbit to be an astronaut? And that's the difference. If you go into space, but you're just going up and down, are you technically an astronaut? You've technically crossed the Kármán line. You're technically in 0G at a point. You're an astronaut. But if you go into orbit, I think that's where we might start seeing different classifications, maybe even of astronauts, or different things. Like if you look at like military or something, like there's the different levels of like types of pilots and, different things maybe. I don't know. I think that's a bigger question. It hasn't been an issue we've had to have yet, and now it is. Michael, hello from overseas. Michael from the Netherlands. Just want to say they enjoy your quality. Oh, thanks so much. I'm glad you're here. Is it Michael or Michelle? Depending where you're at. It could be either. But BO is yet to go orbital. That is true. Cross the line, you get the gold wings. That's what most believe. I know there's some astronauts that are like, no, you have to actually have gone into orbit to do it. I think it's you cross the line, you've done it. Just like you climb Everest, you've done it. Like you have to there's a point you have to cross. Do you think the UK and India was right to buy OneWeb? Ooh. I haven't dived deep into that one yet. I haven't really focused on OneWeb too much because there's such a different platform. Like they make sense. It's good that there's competition to Starlink because that's going to make sure Starlink keeps a standard, which obviously 40,000 satellites versus, I think I said 1,200, not even, no, 600. You can't even compare the two really, other than the fact of they're both a internet constellation. The 3 on Virgin Galactic got their wings. Yep. Yeah, so that's what I would say. You cross the Kármán line, yes, technically you would be an astronaut. Maybe we need a different term for someone that's gone to the moon or then to Mars. Like maybe it's, astronaut, I don't know, lunar astronaut or space traveler. Or like, I think there can be a definition, because once we start having a lot of people going to low Earth orbit and private space stations and private launches and stuff, that word is going to get diluted. And if it's a tourist thing versus like a military thing, there's going to be a difference there. So maybe it's space tourist or space tourist astronaut tourist or tourist astronaut, or something slightly different, because we don't civilian astronaut. Our Patreon, check it out. That's a level you can get. But it's one of those things that I can understand it from the astronaut perspective where they work so hard to do their job with like the military structure and the science and the research to become a real country astronaut. And what we know that it can be, I guess it could be disappointing or dilute that hard work if someone else just has to pay, a quarter million, technically, well, 2.8 million for a seat just to ride up to space. So I think that's where there's a conversation to have. And luckily, I'm not the one that has to decide it because that's a big decision to set history forward on. I know this might be a hard one, but I want to hear your opinion. Will SpaceX land an uncrewed Starship on Mars before Blue Origin launches the New Glenn? Um, Maybe. Mars. Oh, Mars would be hard. Moon for sure. Moon definitely there will be a Starship on it. I think before New Glenn. At the rate Starship, we could see Starship going to the moon in the next year, and I think New Glenn might be a little bit further than that. Mars. We have to see how re-entry goes. Once we have this orbital test of Starship this summer, that'll give us a better idea of what's next. Because once they've nailed that, the next thing is to go lunar injection, lunar landing. Okay, the only thing left, Mars, um, type of thing. So we'll see. I think we'll see some Starship flybys of Mars maybe before then, but we'll have to wait and see because we have to have that window too. And that next window's coming up. I don't think SpaceX, if they can, I don't think SpaceX, if everything goes well, will miss that window at least for a Starship flyby, just to prove the concept. That's why real astronauts also have a speed patch to indicate how fast you. True? Yeah, absolutely. Alan Shepard was gold winged after first flight. Yep. Michelle. Okay, perfect. That's how the friends use Michael. Just call me Michael. Sounds good, Michael. My last name's Aubert, so but we say Aubert. It was anglicized a few generations ago, so I get it. Scrubbed, yeah. Unfortunately, it was scrubbed for today. So we will. We're waiting for an updated time for tomorrow, but they're saying at least 24 hours. So we will wait and see for that, and then once we have a date, we will try to schedule a stream so you guys know when it is. Moon before New Glenn, absolutely, yeah. Moon's not far, and I think that's one of the things a lot of people are asking about the Artemis program. So what's happening with it and everything there, and I think that's where there's questions depending how the GAO goes and how this new bill and everything goes. Which you haven't seen those videos. Drop back over to the channel once we wrap this up. There's a couple videos from a few days ago that go into the updates of what's happening with HLS, with Bernie Sanders and with a new bill for $10 billion. Take a look at that. And let us know your comments in that video stream of what you guys think is happening with the human landing system contracts. But depending how that all goes, could possibly see the changes to the Artemis program's timeline. I know some people have been like, do they push back till 2026 just for that delay of time to make sure it's right? That's a long time to wait. They've got the astronauts ready. The crafts are getting ready. If it's just funding that they need to get in order, then there's a difference there. So how's being a YouTuber going? It's very interesting. It's I do production, like event production. So like concerts and conferences. So normally I'm on that side of the camera I'm normally in this person's ear I'm normally in this person's ear. So being on this side is very different for me, but it's fun. Something I enjoy, something I know a decent amount about, and if I don't know, I research it or I don't talk about it because I try not to. I'll share opinions, but I try not to share facts that I can't verify. When do you think they will first test fire? When do you think they'll test the first Starship with both vacuum and sea level engines? Ooh. It won't be the orbital flight because they won't be ready by then. Maybe end of the year, early next year. Probably, I would say next 12 months for sure. Maybe in the next 6 or 8 or so. So, yeah. Yeah, familiar with the problem. Absolutely, Michael. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Joe, I would love to see the Dynetic system get the second contract. Poetic justice. That would be interesting. I'm not sure that would go over well. But the only issue is Dynetics doesn't work. If you go back, I want to say to the first one where we announced the HLS announcement, I took a deep dive through like the 300 pages of documents from NASA for the contracts. And both Blue Origins and Dynetics had issues. Dynetics engines were too heavy to work. And there was some other issues, if I remember correctly, as well. So like it wasn't that it was the most expensive, but it was also not functional. Same with Blue Origins. It was more expensive, but there were issues that NASA was worried on. And I think that's another reason why they went and negotiated with SpaceX. Is SpaceX had an idea that seemed to work. Though, yes, they had only crashed them at the time. It was a new idea. Dynetics and BOs was not a new idea. It was just a new version of 40, 50-year-old technology. So that would litter the moon, as our Discord points out. That's a very valid point. Both BO and Dynetics leave trash on the moon. Now, that doesn't mean they couldn't be retrofitted and maybe used for something else. And, I don't know, you make a fire pit or something. But, or a colony area. But the Starship just makes sense. It's less waste. Like, yes, you're gonna have a 16-story tall Starship eventually that's wasted, but it could either become a space station or it could be landed and it's a building on the moon. So eventually it can be kind of retired and used as something because the interior is still going to be good to maintain. Look at the space station. It's lasted so many years and it can be maintained and that's good. Could a Falcon Heavy put an Electron rocket into low Earth orbit? In an extended fairing, maybe? Let me just see the extended fairing height. Extended fairings. I'm not actually sure how. No, it's wider. I'm not sure we actually have a height yet on it. I'll take a look on that one, and we'll bring that back to the landing pad next week. But maybe. If I don't answer that next week, make sure to bring that up in the next landing pad. George, decisions. Keep that money on my retirement account or get gold wings. What a dilemma. Wait till you retire, then go get your gold wings as your retirement party. That's the way to go. Or start a YouTube channel and use it to celebrate 100,000 subs or 1 million subs. But we'll see. Discord has some crazy ideas. The Electron is the size of a Falcon leg. Yeah, you probably could fit it in a fairing. Probably. I'm not sure why you would. But an Electron they're going to be sending to the moon this year at some point. And they also have plans for it to go to... Ooh, where were they going? Is it... They just announced it not that long ago. Mercury? They're going somewhere else. Another planet they announced recently. Venus. They're going to Venus. To hunt for clouds. The mission will launch in 2023. Which Neutron would not be ready. So that has to be some sort of Electron launch. Do you think there's a possibility of a new space race between the CNSA and NASA? I would challenge that we're already in it. Yeah, I would challenge that we're already in that. So if you look at what they're doing, yes. Yeah. Neutron will go to Venus. That's what I would have thought. Neutron's their bigger vehicle, but Neutron wasn't to fly, I don't believe, until 2024. So I believe this first one is going to be Electron, or maybe it'll be a test of Neutron. No, company will use their Electron rocket and its Photon satellite to get to Venus. So this is a Electron launch to Venus. Would you fly Virgin or Blue Origin on one of their hops to space? Ooh. Virgin, I need to see more. Blue Origin, I would go now. It seems pretty safe. Virgin's only had 3, and they had a death on 1. So, yeah. Electron is too tall, 17 meters to fit in a Falcon 9 extended fairing, 13 meters. Okay, but if you move, yeah, so not a full Electron, but if you remove maybe the second stage or something, you could. But what happened with the Strato launch? They did have their test of it. It was a flight test. They don't document it like a lot. Like if you do watch NASA space flights, they had some of their crew down there to actually see the flight in person and show, a little bit. But the Strato launch company itself didn't really show a lot other than confirm they had their good flight. So it does still exist. But we're waiting to see what really happens to it. There hasn't been hasn't been moving very quickly. It started a while back, but they're still working on it. They're not just throwing in the towel. But Dream Chaser originally was one thing that they thought could have been launched from Strato launcher. Now that's moving over to a Vulcan Centaur rocket, or really any 5-meter fairing rocket eventually, but Vulcan Centaur to start. At this moment, how is NASA superior to the CNSA? It looks like how they have pretty much the same technological capabilities. That gets into politics. We try not to really dive into a lot of that, but NASA's run by a government that works with private companies, especially now. Like everything's going private. Almost everything's private sourced or operated now. They're working on their own rocket, but we'll see how that goes. SLS, but CNSA, it's China's way of operating it. It's much more government operated, kind of more like what we saw with the shuttle. It's much more government focused and stuff there. NASA, I definitely think, has maybe more of a science and research and exploration side to it. I'm sure China does as well, but I think there's probably also some other purposes to China as well. Orion project or nuclear engines? Ooh. I mean, I feel like nuclear engines sounds safer because you're not setting off a bomb. Because like Project Orion is literally you're trying to set off little nukes to push forward. If you had nuclear engines, that's where like you speed up. You can, I think you'd have more control, so it'd be safer. Not too sure. Yes, NASA is also focused on downrange safety. That's a big one. NASA is also focused on astronaut safety. I would challenge as well. NASA's got decades of history of launching people, and they make sure every launch is safe for that. So, yeah, but I think we'll take a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap it up here for today. We'll be back tomorrow. If you were just joining us for the launch of OneWeb, unfortunately, it was scrubbed for today. They had some technical issues with the Soyuz that they said they need at least a 24-hour delay to get up and running, which is not something we see very often with a Soyuz, but better safe than sorry, especially on a satellite constellation where they're only launching 600 and this is 32 of them. They're not cheap satellites, so they want to make sure they can get those up to orbit safely there. But I think on that, we're going to call it a day, give you back the gift of time. But if you have more questions, feel free, join the Discord in the chat below. It's free to join. More than half of our Discord is open to the public, so you can check that out. You can follow us over on Twitter at @TLPN_official. That's where we live tweet space news as it happens. And one thing we're doing for the next couple months is we are, as part of our Inspiration 4 fundraiser, or coverage, we're doing a fundraiser with St. Jude's and the Inspiration 4 team to help with cancer treatment and research. The link's in the description. If you guys would consider even donating $5, it really does help St. Jude's. I know times have been difficult, so only donate if you can, but $5 collectively goes a really long way. So take a look at that. We're going to be doing that now through July. Super chats and super stickers and stuff from our landing pad, and then a portion from all our other live streams will also be going towards that. So that's another way that you can take part. If you do donate during a stream, we will give you a shout out. If you donate after a stream, we'll give you a shout out on the next landing pad as well. So definitely something to take a look there and help change a child and a family's life. But make sure you've plugged in, over on Discord, on Twitter. Make sure you've subscribed on our YouTube if you haven't yet. We're on that road to 5,000, and be interesting to see if we can hit it by the summer. So we got a couple more questions here. Do you think Sea Dragon are being ever built? No, not with Starship. Will Starship practice landing in the Texas sandy areas to practice landing on Mars? Ooh. That could be a I could see something like that happening. The biggest thing is if they land somewhere, they're going to need to be able to launch from it. So we'd be talking about a different plan of operation for something like that. But knowing SpaceX, they'd probably just say, let's just send it to the moon and we'll practice there. And then they'll practice on Mars as well. But it's a possibility. We could see something about that. They have to know it can safely re-enter first. And that's what this orbital test for is, coming over the ocean, is so that they know that it's safe, so they don't have an issue of something breaking apart over the United States again. So that's what they're going to do. Thanks, Joe. Sorry for making so many questions about CNSA, because apparently yes, they are planning their own Falcon 9, and they are planning their own Starship variant as well. Yeah, they are planning their own Starship. They've released the first images for that as well. So definitely following SpaceX's trend, which, I mean, anything that's team space is good. I think it just needs to be, why are they doing it? And that's where the bigger question comes up with the CNSA and Roscosmos as well. But that's why there's the Artemis Accords, which a lot of countries have signed. I believe it was at 7 or 8 until yesterday. South Korea signed it this morning, so that's very exciting seeing them becoming part of the Artemis generation and signing the Artemis Accords. And there's at least 2 other countries that will be looking at signing in the next couple of weeks. So the Artemis Accords are building that very much might be our first steps towards our kind of federation in the real world. But exciting to see so many countries. I know Canada's on it. US, obviously, UAE's, I believe, on it, South Korea now, Japan's on it. So definitely a joint venture of going back to the moon and the stars. But we're going to wrap it up for there. That's it from here at the launch pad. Here at the pad, we cover everything space, space flight, space engineering, and the future of space and STEM. And this was our sort of live coverage of the launch of OneWeb-7, which was scrubbed. Will be live tomorrow, most likely, for its launch. But this is Zach with the Launchpad signing off. Have a great day, everyone.